Hello, welcome to tonight's episode of In Conversation with an Expert. Tonight I have my dear friend Chrissy Silva, who is a professionally trained and accredited reflexologist here in the UK, and I cannot wait to have this conversation with her because we are going to dive in deep to why the practice of reflexology can actually help aid your love and dating life. And there are going to be some practical demonstrations that we go through together, regardless of where you're at with your dating life right now, whether you're single and not actively dating, whether you are actively dating, whether you are in a relationship, whatever stage of relationship that may be, or perhaps you're nursing a broken heart right now. We have got the practices for you here tonight. So let me, without any further ado, add the lovely Chrissy to the and welcome Vikas and Zara. Lovely to have you here with us. If you do have any specific questions that you want to ask Chrissy and myself, then please feel free to join in and press the question mark button or write in the comments. Lovely to see you, Suru, as well. And welcome, Chrissy.
Hi.
Hello, my love. How are you?
I'm good. Can you see me and hear me? Most important.
I can see you. I can hear you. We're all good for now.
What do I sound like? Do I sound really echoey?
So, there's a tiny bit of echo, but it's all good. It's cool. It's not horrible in any way whatsoever. So we're all good. Thank you so much for taking up this opportunity to be here for one of these this series that is really building momentum, which I really love. We get such wonderful. I'm speaking as if I'm a company. No, just me. I
What?
get such lovely feedback from the people that tune in week after week. You know, we've got some people that have it in their schedule, and then I hear from people that are joining in the things that they've been putting into practice, that they've been getting so much value out of these conversations. So I'm so excited that you're here, that you get to share with everyone. I'm excited that you're excited, but
Well, what's wrong with me?
don't worry, right?
One person here.
Well, maybe the practices that we'll go through to ease those first date nerves will also help you here. But I think nerves are a great sign, right? It means that this is important to you. And I know just how important the practice of reflexology has been in your own life, and what a huge deal it is for you to be able to now pay it forward. And I really would love for us to dive into that a bit more here today. So welcome everyone that is joining us. I think lovely Caroline is with us. We've got Rachel. So yeah, do join in. Do let us know if you're where you're at, if you have any practices that you'd like, or any questions that you have for Chrissy here tonight. I think we should caveat as well, this is reflexology, but we won't be getting our feet out, will we, Chrissy?
No, I did think about that, and I thought maybe not today. It'll be our hands, so we're safe. Foot phobe, relax.
Good. I'm a little bit of a foot phobe, so I was like, oh, okay, this is good. This is good. Oh, Caroline saying always here for you girls. Thank you so much. We love the support. We appreciate the support. So let's dive into it. So please share with us, Chrissy, how did reflexology become such a prominent part and practice in your life, and why is it so important for you to now bring it to your clients and have this be a practice that you share with others?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm assuming everyone that's joining knows what reflexology is.
Actually, that's a really good point.
Pointing-
Let's wind it back. Tell us, what is reflexology?
And it's amazing how many people still don't know what reflexology is and what it can do. And it goes among the old principle. It's an ancient therapy that goes on the principle of that every organ in our body, every organ and system in our body has a corresponding reflex all across the body, but mainly on the soles of the feet. So people are familiar with acupuncture or acupressure points has a similar philosophy on that. So there are meridians, areas of energy, but this energy or dysfunctions can show up on these reflexes, and if they're blocked, then that's a sign that that there's a dysfunction there. And so reflexology is basically, our job is to find those blockages and to help release them so that everything works in unison and there is homeostasis. So it's like a maintenance job. It's not here to cure or fix anything. It's there to merely manage and break up symptom patterns that can either be chronic or hard to diagnose, or that are untreatable by conventional medicine. So it's not here to fix or cure anything, though it can sometimes, but it doesn't claim to do so. But it is incredibly, it was incredibly effective for me personally, hence why I ended up changing careers for it. So I was diagnosed with a rare endocrine illness 7 years ago, after many, many years of feeling unwell without knowing why. I had a wide array of symptoms, and no one could tell me what was wrong. And it was through lack of support from conventional medicine that I turned to holistic therapies, and reflexology was the one that offered me the most amount of relief. It didn't fix anything, but it made me cope much better in my working life, because I was in the 9-to-5 corporate world back then, and I needed to function. And that was my saving grace. It gave me relief in the short term until I finally got a diagnosis, and then it helped me recover, and also, in my view, maintain my illness. So my surgery didn't cure me, and it's likely that I'll never be cured. It was a tumour on my pituitary gland, which is the master hormone gland that sits at the base of the brain, just behind the eyes. So it is a rare form of brain tumour, even though it sits on just the pituitary gland, and it's regrown back. So my surgery went well, but it was highly likely that it would grow back, and that it secretes growth hormone. And I won't bore you with the details of that. However, reflexology, regular, consistent reflexology, has prevented me from having to take very controversial medication to control that and to avoid a further surgery. I obviously can't prove that, but that has been my own experience, and it's also helped in a myriad of other ways, not just treating my illness, but me overall, mind, body, spirit. You know, it's and it's made me look at life in a completely more holistic way. I hope that was too long. Sorry.
No, that was brilliant. And I remember you sharing as well when I came over for my one of my sessions with you, which were amazing, where you shared actually how your doctors were so surprised at how you had reached this level of, just as you said, like stasis, right? It's just that it's not secreting, it's not at the pace as well that they would expect what you have to.
It had plateaued, so which was rare. You know, tumors tend to grow and they tend to just misbehave more and more, but mine just kind of went quiet for a while, which is great. So
yeah, brilliant.
Give that same relief to other people.
Exactly. And I think it's just such a powerful tool, because even when I was in your chair, I didn't really know what reflexology was at all at that point. I think I had the other form of reflexology when I was out in Bali, which is like with the wooden dowel.
Yes.
Which I have to say I didn't find very relaxing.
No, and you hate having your feet touched anyway.
Yes, exactly. I was really kind of on edge when I came to see you, right? But actually, so quickly you put me at ease. I didn't feel funny at all about you touching my feet. And of course, the first appointment that we had together, I was very chatty. I was like, oh, what's going on there? What's going on?
So curious. I'm in control. I want to know what's happening.
But by the second one, I was asleep in the chair, right? Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I can highly recommend, if you want to be supported, if you want to be treated through a reflexology practice, please make sure that you give Chrissy a follow here. You just need to click on the little drop down at the top and you'll see Reflexology with Chrissy. Just give her a follow. And there's beautiful, brilliant work that you can do together and bring this level of balance into your life and this level of support to maybe you just want to, this is the thing, right? It's not for anyone that specifically has a medical condition, right? You can just
can and should have it, even if it's just there to maintain good health. Why wait sick? So
yeah, very, very true. Very, very true. So we've got a few things on our list that we wanna target together here today, right? So I think it just makes complete sense for us to start with the nerves, the anxiety that people can experience when getting ready for that date, that first, second date with that person that you've been texting away. And of course, right now as well, what I'm finding with my clients and a lot of people that I'm speaking to right now is actually the video dating is adding an extra level of nerves because they're concerned about what they may look like on a video call. We've all had that moment, right, where it's frozen in a really weird position.
yeah.
Funny face, and people I think already sort of preempting with things like that happening as they're on video calls. I've had clients speak to me and say they don't feel as attractive on video calls as well because they can't put in quite the effort that they may do when they meet in person. So all of these things stack up. They all cause that sense of anxiety. They increase the level of nerves that someone might be experiencing. So what can you share with us to help bring some of that peace and help settle those nerves for us first time daters?
I would probably say that what most things or illnesses or maladies are all kind of tend to stem from stress and from anxiety. And most of that is self-inflicted. And that's going to sound controversial, but it's because we do it to ourselves. We're the ones making ourselves nervous. No one is making us nervous. We are doing it to ourselves. So a lot of it is up here, and your own perception of yourself and your perception of your body, of how you look, of how you feel in your own skin, and all of those things. So when you're feeling that way, that can very quickly manifest itself physically. You might feel physically sick or have butterflies, start sweating profusely, get the gurgles, lots of other symptoms, and that
The nervous poos.
they are a thing.
Yeah.
Wind, hello.
Yeah.
So it's getting to grips with your own anxiety, your own stress, and obviously, I would say if you know you're going to go on a date, be it online or in person, have yourself some therapy, touch therapy, and I'm a big advocate for other touch therapies. Obviously, I'm a big fan of reflexology. However, try it. But if you don't, then there are other touch therapies and holistic therapies as a whole would help minimize the effects of that stress. So if most people might treat themselves to a hairdo or a facial before going on a date. Why not try a holistic therapy to perk you up, to calm that nervous system down before you go on a date, not after a long week of work when you're feeling frazzled and you can't bear another Zoom call. And you're going to have to switch mindset into stressed, working in my pajamas person to ultra sexy, feeling ultra kind of feminine or masculine in front of a camera. So I would say I usually use a myriad of different techniques. So not only do I practice the reflexology, and I can't remember if I did this with you, which is obviously breathing is a big thing. We did a few breaths at the beginning and at the end. And also, I occasionally like to use visualizations as well. Just visualizing yourself or another person in an optimistic way. and putting yourself in that role already, almost like faking it till you make it.
Mm-hmm.
It's contagious, and that will in itself induce those endorphins, those feel good, you know. So I would say before going on a date, be it online or in person, I'm a big believer in mantras. So breathing, like taking that most important breath, especially if you've just, finished work, because it's so hard to shift from that mindset. So that breath, which I know gets talked about a lot these days, but it's so hard to fall. It's so easy to fall back into really bad breathing patterns, which we're so unaware of. And so the only way I can describe it is to always remember to exhale more than you inhale, because we're constantly guilty of sighing and breathing in a lot, especially through the upper chest, which then puts that pressure on your throat, which is why you can sometimes feel the ball in your throat. And that's because we're over breathing, and that kind of sends hypoxia to the brain, too much oxygen. I'm starting to panic. I'm getting really angsty. Shift that energy down and breathe like the baby does. You see a big fat toddler walking around, and you see his belly expanding, and that's kind of what we want to do. Keep that chest down, close your eyes, visualize yourself as the best version of yourself, and take those 3 controlled but not super slow, just controlled breaths through the nose always, and really fill the belly as far as you can. And the reason why we ask to breathe through the belly or the diaphragm, which is because it innervates the diaphragm, which sits beneath the lungs. And that, by expanding the diaphragm, that in itself innervates the vagus nerve, which, again, I don't know if people are aware of it, but it's one of the most important spinal nerves and a cranial nerve. So it innervates the vagus nerve, which is the one responsible for kind of fighting the fight or flight sensation, the effect of nerves and stress, and all the physical symptoms that come along with that. So by innervating the vagus nerve, stimulating that, the vagus nerve is responsible for your parasympathetic nervous system, the one that triggers the rest and digest mode. And so by doing those controlled breathings, that vagus nerve is sending information to the brain to say, okay, there is no danger here. We can send out good hormones, not cortisol, stress hormones. So you just want to counteract that. So there is a physical reason why belly breathing is so effective, hence why it's done in yoga, why it's done in meditation. So it is a form of meditation if you want to think about it. And yeah, so that would be my first tip, is control your breathing. Remember to breathe through your belly, visualize the best version of yourself. And then there are a couple of steps on the hand that we could do beforehand. So I think to really complement the breathing, you want to stimulate the diaphragm, because that's the most relaxing movement on the hand and also on the feet.
So can you just show us a bit higher up? Or
I'll show you just on here. And I was going to try and draw the lines on my hand. However, to then rub over them would be so the diaphragm line. So if I hold it up straight, you can see the typical lines on your hand. And the diaphragm line is the one that runs across. So if you fold your hand slightly, you'll see that first main crease along the top underneath the knuckle bones.
that one there?
So that there is the diaphragm line. And the way we always stimulate reflexes is with the padding of your thumb. And it's important that it's the padding of the thumb and not the very tip, because that can be quite uncomfortable and hurt. So you always want to use the padding. And I would recommend, I'm obviously doing it to the camera here, but if you were doing it to yourself, you would face the hand face to you, and you would do a kind of a really quite comfortable, firm, circular but slow movement right across the hand. And if that feels too hard, you can just relax the hand. You don't have to have the hand super straight. And just kind of slide along and then start again. And really be sure to do circular movements. You want to kind of feel the gnarly bits. And it's quite good if you do feel those gnarly bits, because they're tiny crystals that form. And then by crushing those, you're allowing those to go back into your lymph system, get detoxed, throw away those bad kind of circulating stress hormones. And then just do that several times, and that should feel quite comforting as and when you get used to it. So that's
And that with the breathing is really,
yeah.
really relaxing.
Even just have your hand resting in your lap with your eyes closed as you're doing that breath work, all at the same time, visualizing the best version of yourself on this day and it going super well, and having zero expectations.
Oh,
You
I
know,
found a crystal.
oh, crush it.
Crush it. I love
It's
that.
like
Popping candy.
yeah, or popping candy.
Yeah, yeah. I think I remember the first time that I experienced that in the appointment with you. It was such a bizarre sensation. Like, oh, what's that? But yeah, can you speak to that a bit more? What's going on there exactly?
So it's a build-up of uric acid, basically. It's quite normal, happens all over our bodies. Our bodies are full of gnarly bits, and that's fine. But when we find them in specific reflexes corresponding to a certain organ, it's important to unblock that build-up. And by releasing that, we're allowing the organs to function properly. And in reflexology, you may come to a treatment for a specific reason, i.e. my libido's gone down the drain, or I'm having problems down there with current infections, or you've got really bad anxiety, which is stopping you from going on dates, etc., etc. However, with reflexology, it's when I use the word holistic comes from the word whole, and it means that you treat the entire body, regardless of whatever issue, one problem you may have, because a problem never exists by itself. It's always part of a bigger picture, and everything is connected. And so just because you feel you may have just a shoulder problem, it's actually probably coming from your spleen without you knowing. And so we obviously, as reflexologists, we've done all our studies, we know our anatomy and physiology, and we know all the reflex points. So we would be able to identify that and find perhaps a deeper root cause for that. So I would say that, and I've forgotten my train of thought there. What was the question?
So that was about uric acid builds up, the crystals, the crunchy.
So it's just important to, so our objective is to identify the blockages, but treat the entire body. And the findings at the end, so at the end of our treatments, I would always tell you, right, so my findings after today were X, Y, and Z, found blockages here and here. Is there a reason for that? And then you might give me some context. And obviously, you know, at the beginning, we will have done our consultation. You will have given me a bit of background on your medical background and also your personal life and your work life, because that's all context that's important. But the blockages are normal and they're nothing to worry about. And I must reiterate that reflexology is a non-invasive form of holistic treatment, as opposed to acupuncture, for example, which pierces the skin. And even though it's a wonderful therapy, it's reflexology is more accessible for those who are perhaps not quite ready for acupuncture or acupressure massage. So it's really gentle, really, really relaxing. And I think the most important aspect of any reflexology treatment is inducing that deep state of relaxation, akin to that relaxed state that you get when, for those that know and meditation, it's that place between not quite asleep and not awake. you're somewhere in the middle. And we very rarely allow ourselves to be in that state. But it's a really, really good place to be physically, because that's where a lot of healing happens. So allowing yourself to let go is quite important during the treatment. So so those who are nervous or who are not great with feet or not great with any sort of discomfort, because finding the crystals can be uncomfortable. I wouldn't say painful. It is uncomfortable, but you do get used to it, and it's incredibly relaxing. So
yeah, thank you. And Kukalabulua, I hope I said that right. So that sounds perfect. It really is. It's really, really such a beautifully relaxing, especially that's coming from someone who doesn't like having her feet touched very much either. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, highly, highly recommended. So really clear, if you're feeling nervous about upcoming dates, you know, I mean, you know, if people are preparing, getting ready for weddings as well, right? All sorts of things. You feel that, right? You feel this sense of nervousness, anxiety building up, then to begin. And I think you made a really important point, Chrissy, which I bring into all of my coaching sessions as well, is that moment of just closing the door and pressing pause on anything that's come before this moment. Be it, you know, for a lot of my clients, they come into a coaching session in the middle of a working day, at the end of a working day. I've worked with a lot of single parents as well. So they put the kids to sleep and then they're having to switch that off and then come into this session to then have a conversation about their love and dating lives. So it's really important to get into that practice of, for me, I say, you know, close the door on anything that's come before this moment, any roles and responsibilities of the day. This is your time to focus on yourself, focus on your heart. And then one of those really grounding practices is to start doing the deep belly breaths, right? And a few of those, you said 3 of those. And I think, you know, for me, I used to really struggle with belly breathing. I was one of those shallow breathers for a long time. And just the practice of putting one hand on my stomach to just feel it rising and falling as I took that in breath really helped draw that attention. So for any of you here that struggle with that belly breathing, that struggle with that slowing down pace, close your eyes, put that hand on your belly and feel it rise as you take that in breath, and that will really help start to retrain the way that you breathe, right? And then get that hand out and then start massaging in circular motion along that line there.
Use the circular motion
with the padded part of your thumb.
With the padded thumb.
Yes. Brilliant. Awesome. Well, lovely little practice there for us to get started.
Points if you wanted me to go through more.
Yeah, cool.
So there are 4 or 5 really important points, I think, for general nerves and anxiety around dating in particular. I would probably say, yes, the diaphragm, just to improve your breathing. The adrenal gland, which is, your adrenals are responsible for producing cortisol. They're your kind of, your angry organs. They're glands that secrete cortisol and many other hormones. They're the ones that keep you alive, and adrenaline when you're in an accident. But if you're chronically stressed and you've chronically got your adrenals pumping out stress hormones, which we are guilty of in our modern days, that's going to have a knock-on effect on your central nervous system. So and I'll show you now. So the adrenal gland reflex on the hand, if you were to draw a line from between that knuckle there down and then up against your thumb, so it's kind of in that fleshy bit between here and there. If you were to, that webbed bit, I would say, just to be sure, there's always an indentation with the reflexes. So you might naturally just feel a little dip. So just there, and the adrenal gland is probably your most sensitive. And so I would probably go kind of lighter here.
Okay.
And just go And just do that central circular movement as firm as you can without it being too painful. If it does, again, close the hand, because you're going to create more resistance by stretching it. So by folding it, you're allowing the kind of the soft tissue, and you can get deeper in until it no longer feels too uncomfortable. So that's going to kind of calm the adrenals. So that's your adrenal gland. We did the diaphragm.
Mm-hmm.
The most famous is the solar plexus, which is smack bang right in the middle of your hand. And again, you'll feel that natural dip in there. And this one is a pure kind of, this is probably what you'd also press. When you're doing the diaphragm, you could, if you wanted to, in the middle, once you get to the middle, just hold and press that when you're doing your breathing. And just kind of, you know, really focus on that. And then keep massaging if you wanted to. You could do that while you're doing your diaphragm breathing. Another point is your head. So a lot of our stress and nerves is happening in our brain. Kind of all the negative thoughts that we're allowing to run away with ourselves is all happening in our brain and our head. And the pituitary gland, the master hormone gland, sending out all those kind of chemical hormones throughout our body. So another one is the whole head is the thumb, from the first crease here. And if you think about the whole pad of the thumb is the whole head area.
Right.
The crease would be the neck, and the very, very tip is the brain. So ideally, we want to cover the whole head area so that we're treating all the glands that we have. So the hypothalamus, the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, as long as you cover that whole area. So again, if you're doing this on yourself, I'm trying to do it for the camera here. The easiest way to do it on yourself is to have it rested on your finger so that you can create some resistance. So you do this, and then just kind of, again, use that circular motion from the very tip. You know, think of it as lines going down. You can't see. And going all the way down. And that might feel a bit uncomfortable or painful. And so just draw some lines all across the thumb. It doesn't matter if it goes red.
Right. It's interesting that there's some like really sensitive spots, even on the sort of smallest part of your thumb. Yeah, definitely could feel that.
And if you're guilty of a racing mind, which finished the day of work, your mind is buzzing and electric. And if you were to start speaking to someone you didn't know, there'd be no filter. And, you know, that nervous kind of gobbledygook that comes out on the first date, you just calm the mind.
Yeah.
And you really want to focus on the brain part. So again, you could really you could even use your knuckle if you wanted to. If you've got long nails, for example, or you've got fake nails, you can just use the knuckle, the tip of your knuckle, to really focus on the very tip of the thumb.
And that's a really good one for,
all of this is easier if you have a hand lotion. So that helps with the gliding. So if it feels a bit kind of, you know, if you've got dry hands like me, then use some lotion. That might be easy. Or have an oily bath before your date.
very sexy. Yes.
So that's the brain, and then at the end, I want you to kind of use, as you'll see, you know where the natural fingerprint pattern on your thumb comes to a natural curl and core. So where it gets really circular.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, so normally there's a little protrusion there, which is the fleshiest part. That is your master hormone gland, the pituitary gland, where I have a nice little tumour growing. But in your case, yours will be healthy. And what you want to do is you just want to hold it down. And if you can do a circular movement as well, just to kind of stimulate it gently.
I can
That's
actually feel that point. Yeah.
that's quite sensitive as well. So if you think about the hand as, or the hands of your body, anywhere on the inside of the hand, inside of the body, is going to be way more sensitive because it's internal organs, internal glands.
Right.
Anywhere on the outside of the hands and of the feet, you can go a bit harder because they're less sensitive, because they're the kind of outer bits of our body.
Okay, noted.
So where the adrenals were, that's going to be sensitive because these are organs. So the heart, for example, is right there.
Oh, okay.
That's the
Oh,
heart.
yes, yes. That is sense. Oh, yeah.
You might feel a weird pulsation if you hold it for long enough and you're very still. You might feel that either on the adrenals as well, because the adrenals are constantly pulsating as well.
So how about that one for if you've got a racing heart and you're getting up close and personal to your date, just have a quick little massage.
The adrenal gland, because that's going to be the one pumping the adrenaline, and that's what's causing the racing heart. It's your heart's fine, it's just the chemicals that are being pumped to it and the signals to the brain saying there is danger. That's the cycle we want to break. We don't want to treat the heart, we don't want to treat the brain, we want to kind of treat the nervous system and the hormone system that is kind of cascading into a meltdown. So the adrenal gland, your pituitary gland, the diaphragm for breathing, so to innervate that vagus nerve, and also the solar plexus at the end.
Right.
Those are your biggest ones for calming yourself down.
Right. Good. That's really great, because also, when you were talking about the racing mind as well, not just for before the date, guys, make sure we have this practice going on after the date as well, right? Because how many of us after a date have sat there thinking, did it go well? Did it not? Did they like me? Did they not? And you're thinking about all the things that you did, usually the things that you didn't do so well, more so than the things that you did do well. Right?
True.
And you're going over that, and actually maybe as you just lie in bed and shut down for the night, just to go back to that brain part and just soothe that. And of course, I guess the adrenals as well, right? Just to calm things
go
down.
through that. There's no particular order. You can do those as often or as in any order you like, as long as you do them, because that will have an effect. The hands are not as effective as the feet, but they're still worth doing, because we reflexologists practice on the hands. For example, if you've got a broken foot or you've got an injury or an infection on your foot, then we'll treat the hands, and it is still effective. But foot reflexology is where it kind of really, because you have much more sensitivity. But treating the hands, for example, when you're treating each other, or even when I'm treating a client's hands, weirdly it feels far more intimate. So it's a different dynamic. So I recommend, once you're comfortable with your partner, or even as a bonding experience, not that kind of bonding, is to practice on each other, on the hand.
Definitely.
And then, if the feet are out of bounds, then
right. It's a good introduction as you start to get closer and you're a bit more comfortable with touching each other's feet. Well, this is a great place to start. This could be really, like, when things do start opening up again, we're on second, third, fourth date with someone, we're getting a bit more physically intimate with each other. This could be like a really wonderful thing to do as you sit at the bar or wherever, at the restaurant, like waiting for your food, take each other's hands over the table and start practicing.
What you're doing. Hands.
Exactly, right. Who cares what others think? So are there any points that are sort of natural aphrodisiacs that we could stimulate for each other?
I wish I could say there was, because reflexology wasn't invented for the purpose of, illicit pleasure. But it can be pleasurable. It can be immensely, hence why either people fall asleep, which is also a sign of pleasure. But also, let's not forget, I'm yet to have this experience, but it is possible because reflexology promotes, really boosts blood flow to organs. It boosts lymph flow and blood flow. So we all know that certain reactions happen when we've got blood moving around a bit more quicker than normal. It's a natural high. Much like you would when you go for a run or a swim. Reflexology can have that same effect because we're stimulating organ points and glands from the very sensitive reflexes on the feet, and that's having the same effect. So people might feel hot and warm. People might feel a bit woozy, a bit je ne sais quoi. And yeah, so it's if you're having, that's great if you're feeling a little bit on the kind of, I've not done anything, sexy for a while, and that will really get things going. Yeah. But in the sense of an aphrodisiac move, I would say start really light, and don't close your eyes. Eye contact. So if you wanted, so I'm presuming you're saying as a couple.
Yeah, or if you want to progress things along, move things to the bedroom, take things to the next level.
Yeah, I mean there are no kind of specific points I can say that are pleasure points, but just by doing those moves, the pituitary producing all the right sexual hormones, getting that blood flow circulating is essential for you to feel at your best physically and mentally. And it's overcoming the kind of your own niggles, I can't quite think of a better answer than that.
No, that's great. And I think the point that you make about the increased blood flow, right? That's part of the arousal process, right? It's the increased blood flow rushing around us to vital areas of our body, right? To have that process that you're doing with I was going to say a client. No, not with a client. No.
I've not yet had that effect on my male clients just yet, one hope. But if you're a couple and you're familiar with each other and you want to involve reflexology in your intimacy, it can be incredibly intimate. There's nothing more than touching people's hands and also touching their feet. And this is a thing, it's actually a really good thing to overcome because it instills trust. And that's the one big thing that we're trying to build when we're dating, right? Is not only do I want to fancy him, but do I trust him as a person, or him or her? It's about trust. So overcoming that, oh no, I'm shy and I don't like, oh no, I don't want to touch. And touch is a big thing. It's so, I mean, gosh, are we depleted of touch at the moment in the past year? If you're single, I feel you, again, well, maybe I don't feel you, that's the point. Pardon the pun. You just, you want to involve touch without perhaps any pressure of sex or sexual pleasure. Perhaps just get comfortable feeling and touching, and using these points as a way of not only does it feel nice, but it's actually doing some physical good internally, and as well as calming yourself and them down. And it's a really good practice to have because it instills openness. It's caring as well. So perhaps to just not put the pressure on being sexy straight away.
Yeah.
You want to,
I think that's really important because, like, for example, as you know, I struggled with my body image for a very, very, very long time. And the thought of anyone getting close to me and being intimate with me was a very scary thought. So to think now that actually to help someone who maybe is also struggling with this area of their life as well, to have to slowly introduce touch into your dynamic with someone just by starting with the hands, incredibly intimate, but yet maintaining that sense of personal safety and space.
Yeah.
And the eye contact thing, like, guys, I hope you have noted that down, because that is an absolute like
Yeah.
game changer. The eye contact with touch, that
Yeah.
is, as you said, an instant
Yeah.
way of creating a bond, and that trusting bond with someone. So definitely bring that into your pleasure time.
Don't forget, maybe I've just thought of this, which is of course a no-brainer. That act of kind of touching, feeling of openness is also about vulnerability.
Yeah.
And you know, that vulnerability, if you're overcoming that vulnerability, you're instantly you're going to so by stimulating those points at the same time, you're going to be inducing those feel good hormones, not just endorphins, but also serotonin, and also oxytocin, most important, bonding hormone. But not just the bonding hormone, the hormone that mums produce to give birth, to induce contractions. And what are contractions good for as well? Orgasm.
Yeah.
So you can't, it's kind of a no-brainer to want to include that. And it's, you know, and it can help anything or anyone, really. There's no kind of risks involved. So if you can make that part of your, you know, getting to know each other,
Yes.
and that's
100%, 100%. Just looking at the comments here, we had Isuru saying the thumb exercise is really good. So he's enjoying that practice there, which is great. Fantastic. So I think that actually really well, like really nicely segues us into something that I've been having conversations with a few of my clients at the moment, that they're struggling with, and this is for the guys, with libido and premature ejaculation, right? So have you got some points that they can work on to help address that?
I would probably say that, again, it's probably down to the effects of stress. And normally, or it's very rare that it's a physical problem. It's most of the time it's a psychological issue, a mental block. So by and I think it's a similar problem for premature ejaculation and also no or delayed ejaculation as well. So I think definitely those points that I pointed out earlier will definitely help with that, because that's all hormonal, as well as the kind of psychological, mental, calming down that anxiety side of things. So the expectation, the build up, the pressure to perform will, you know, can overwhelm, understandably. Some, you know, for some people it comes very natural to ignore that pressure and have no problems. But if you do, I would probably recommend the same reflexes and getting that blood flow right, but also slowing down rather than speeding up and getting really out of kilter, and making sure you're both in sync. So the breathing as well could be really important. And also bad habits, you know, there could be lots of other lifestyle issues at play as well. So excessive masturbation, or smoking, recreational drugs, alcohol, that could all be at play as well. And in terms of reflexology, again, it's just making sure that everything is working together. And our major objective is, one, to induce that deep state of relaxation, and two, to achieve homeostasis. So to unblock all those crystals and make sure that that the energy is clear, so that organs can function properly and that detoxification is happening, all the glands are secreting properly, all the organs are working effectively. And there's no reason physically for nothing to be going wrong.
Mm.
It's the psychological aspect that also needs to be addressed. So in reflexology, we will always include that as part of the treatment. It's not just physical. And that's why, you know, we have quite a deep consultation process to understand the reasons behind that one symptom that you may be worried about, but there may be more that you're not revealing, or etc., etc. But there is, yeah, I would say, just if for the guys that are having that issue, I really recommend reflexology, foot reflexology particularly, because the reflexes are much more sensitive and receptive on the feet, especially for the testes, and the vas deferens in men, but as well as but the ovaries as well, for women. So I would recommend doing giving it a try. And if it's something that's been ongoing and really worrisome for you, I recommend doing a minimum of 4 to 6 treatments weekly. And that's the best kind of outcome. You'd get the most benefit from doing that rather than a one-off thing. Like with anything, things take. But I think for guys, it's about trust. It's about communication and managing of expectations, and really like self-love and care for yourself rather than caring about pleasing the other and putting too much pressure on yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I think communication, huge part of it as well, right? Sometimes people think that this is something that I have to keep to myself, right? And actually the conversation, addressing it in some way could make a huge difference in relieving that stress that, as you said, just probably one of the biggest factors in the issue, right? In the problem. So definitely the conversation, the communication, just reduction of stress, whatever you can do to bring those stress levels down, which handily we are talking about stress next week as well with our special guest, who is the chief de-stressing officer of the stress management company, which is, so tune in next Thursday for that one. But yeah, definitely this is something
there you go.
to look at for sure. So then that leads us into, say, for my clients who are perimenopausal, menopausal, and dating, and having all of the the symptoms rushing around their body as a result of going through that. Is it a similar practice again for them to address in terms of the hand reflexology, or is there something else they can attend to?
There is a really long, complex routine. That is by no means comprehensive.
That's an IG live for you to do on your channel.
I've got an idea. But those glands that are responsible for secreting those important sex hormones are the ones that need stimulating and being kept in check. So in regards to perimenopause or menopause or andropause, men can go through it too, guys. Testosterone nosediving, it's a thing, and there really isn't much you can do about it. It's part genetic, part we're not designed to live as long as we do, and therefore we're not designed to suffer, and we shouldn't suffer with those types of symptoms for as long as we currently do. But there are ways of keeping the symptoms at bay, holistically through treatments, and also alongside conventional medicine such as HRT, which I completely advocate for, because that you're just replacing hormones that you would otherwise get, that you were born with, and you shouldn't really suffer needlessly. And as long as they're bioidentical hormones, I don't see why you shouldn't. If your symptoms are really severe, despite choosing a holistic route, then I do. Reflexology does complement conventional medicine really well. GPs are now more and more referring their patients to us more and more, like they currently do with acupuncture. So it's really encouraging that they know that it has actually. There is a study that was recently published about how reflexology actually was proven to reduce menopausal symptoms in women.
Wow.
And I can find that and send that if anyone wants to read it. I'm more than happy to send it. Or they can go to the AOR, the Association of Reflexology, and I'm sure it's published there on their website as well. But
I think you should definitely do a live or some kind of series of this, because I think it would be so, and I'd love to be able to point, my clients in the direction of that as well. I think that would be really great. Definitely.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So last but not least, I've got a few clients that unfortunately right now are dealing with and nursing a broken heart. And so, of course, we all know, and of course, not just people that are dating right now, but it is a heartbreaking time that we find ourselves in. With everything that's going on in the world, people that we know that are dear to us are getting sick. Some of them are passing on, and it's a heartbreaking time with so much stress. So what quick practice do you have for someone perhaps that just needs to tend to their heart in this way at this time?
Yeah, I think in addition to the 4 or 5 that I mentioned earlier, I would probably really focus on the meditational side of it and breathing, because it's when you're in that constant state of let's say grieving for not just because of losing someone who's died or losing someone because you've broken up, but it's a time of self-love. You need to kind of comfort yourself, and it's part acceptance, part self-love and forgiveness and moving on in a way. And reflexology can just remind you to look after yourself before you can care for others. And at the moment, it's just a tough time to feel like that, especially if you've been on your own for a while, and you're desperate to just be around other people and care for others and love others. And I think that feeling in your stomach as well, carrying that on your chest, that incredible sadness, that diaphragm reflex would be really helpful. And just focusing on the self-love aspect. And you could repeat a mantra almost, and remind yourself of what you have and that gratitude, and that it's everything's about change. That's the only constant in life. And that just because it's bad now, it won't be forever. There will be, everything's cyclical. And so reminding yourself that this too shall pass, and just comforting yourself and allowing yourself to feel what you feel, but also not harboring negative thoughts. It's okay for you to feel them, but to kind of allow yourself to look up, to heal yourself, to let go of those harboring thoughts, and doing that, getting into a habit, a routine, a bit like how you would brush your teeth at bedtime. Really focus on those, on those movements, on the diaphragm, the adrenals, especially around the head. If you do anything, just do the head reflex. That's really important, because it's mainly in our psyche that we're harboring this heartache. It has nothing really to do with our heart. We call it heartbreak, but it's actually just incredible sadness. And so just as soon as you can, hopefully, I think it's from 12th of April, that you can start getting reflexology. So fingers crossed.
Start booking, folks. Start booking.
Yeah, just get it.
Yeah,
there's so much you can do for yourself on. I think until then, really just focus on looking after yourself, and being the best version of yourself when the things start breaking back into a version of what we consider normal, and just embrace it, and that any hurt you feel now will gradually get better. And the more you invest in yourself with holistic treatments, that's money well spent. And yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Chrissy. How can people get in touch with you if they'd like to start booking for treatments when things do start opening up?
Yeah, so it's all on my website, but you can also DM me here on Instagram as well. You can book directly on my website, not at the moment, obviously, because we're closed, but from the minute I start practicing again, you'll be able to book on my website.
Can you just share with us the website address?
Do you mean on the chat?
Or just say it out loud and people can
Yeah,
jot it down.
It's actually just my name. It's chrissysilva.com.
Silva, Silva.
Yes, that's metal. Yes, chrissysilva.com. And there's also a blog on there where I share all different types of tips for holistic healthcare, as well as, information on reflexology and any new studies that have come out. So yeah, sign up to my mailing list if you want to get those tips in your inbox.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Chrissy, for this evening. Thank you for sharing all those gems. And
that was helpful.
Yes.
And I hope my nerves didn't get the best of me.
I didn't sense any nerves, which is great.
Of luck in your dating endeavors, and you will be in very good hands if you coach with Artie. He is fabulous, dear old friend, but she's excellent at what she does. I'm constantly in awe of her. So do listen, do follow, and anyone and I'm hoping to treat you again, Artie. It's not over.
No, me too. I want to get back on that seat.
Yeah.
Get my feet in your face.
Can't wait. I never thought I'd be saying that, but yes, can't wait for your feet in my face.
Oh, I look forward, counting down the days, Chrissy, counting down the days. Thank you so much for being here. Remember, everyone that tuned in, thank you for being here with us. Thank you for joining in the practice. Remember, this replay will be available on my IGTV, so you can watch this back and you can go over some of those practices and the beautiful ritual that Chrissy took us through. Let us know how you get on with the practice as well, what kind of feelings it's inducing for you, how relaxed you're feeling as a result of it. Remember to tag me and to tag Chrissy in there as well, and we can't wait to hear from you. And please do give Chrissy a follow if you want to get those reflexology treatments booked in as soon as things start to open up and Chrissy starts practicing again. And of course, the Fearless Dating Group Coaching Program begins on the 16th of March. So there's a few more spaces available. Got the tryouts going on right now. So remember to DM me if you'd like to start exploring that together. We can organize a no-fee tryout for you to go through. Thank you so much, Chrissy. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Isuru.
Thanks, everyone, for watching.
All right. Big love to you all. Bye.